Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time seeing me, hi, I'm Chidera and I recently had my first baby, so I'm a first time mom navigating money and motherhood. All right, in this video I'm going to be sharing my birth story. Thank you so much for all the love on all the videos regarding pregnancy and childbirth. I'm really grateful, and I'm doing this video also because I got a lot of comments saying yes, I should make this video. So just a bit of a disclaimer in case I get teary-eyed, please bear with me. My birth experience was a lot. So yes, the title you read right, I had a traumatic birth experience, but at the same time it was miraculous. Yes, it's possible for something to be traumatic and also miraculous. Let's just get right into the video. Okay, so I'm going to start from my third trimester. My third trimester started quite okay. In the previous clips, I showed that I did not have gestational diabetes. I did not have preeclampsia. So everything was looking okay. The only thing was I was slightly anemic and I was taking iron tablets. So every other thing was fine. However, on this particular Sunday, when we were going to church, I was 33 weeks and some days. I started feeling some contractions. Contractions that were very spaced out. They were not close. At 33 weeks, I was like, what's going on? And so I ignored it. But later in the evening, it became more intense. Started getting a bit closer. It was still far apart, but like slightly closer than it was before. And then I told my husband, you know what, we need to go to the hospital because I don't know what's going on. Something's going on and I need to be sure baby's okay. I was having a bit of anxiety because at the same time I was not feeling my baby move. She wasn't moving as much, and I was like, yeah, they say if you have any concerns about movements, just go to the hospital. Went to the hospital that night. I was checked. They monitored the contractions as well to see if I was in labor. When they monitored it, the contractions were not as strong, so they said what I was experiencing is called braxton hicks. Now the thing is, I know someone will be like, oh, I should have known that now. I know that I had experienced braxton hicks previously, but that day it was a bit more intense. Like the contractions were a bit more. In case you don't know what braxton hicks is a type of false contractions that basically your uterine walls are contracting, preparing you for labor. But usually with braxton hicks, when you change position and kind of like stops, but this one did not change and it persisted and it increased in intensity. So that was why we had to go to the triage, to the hospital. So when they monitored everything, they were like, oh, it's probably braxton hicks, and they're like, baby's heart rate is fine, she's moving fine. Another thing that I'll tell you here is, I don't know if other pregnant ladies can relate or people who have been pregnant, is these babies make you look like a liar. So when I was saying, oh, I was not feeling my baby move and everything, when we went to the hospital and she was being monitored, this girl started moving a lot, and then it didn't look like I was lying. She started moving a lot, and I was like, why did you move the whole day? And you're like, yeah, maybe the baby just did not want to move as much today, but like everything is fine, everything checks out. And we're both like, thank you Jesus. So that was in the night, I think around 1 a.m. or so, and then we headed home and I was like, okay, thank God. Moving forward, third trimester comes with its heaviness. I was feeling heavy, back aches, all of that, and I was really trusting God that I was gonna carry my baby to full term, but that did not happen. So at 36 weeks and some days, that day actually I was making my hair. I was braiding my hair and then I started feeling contractions. So because I felt contractions before at 33 weeks, I was like, it's probably nothing. It's probably still the braxton hicks like they said. So I started feeling the contractions and I noticed that it was far apart. So I was like, I'm not thinking much of it, and we kept braiding my hair. This started around like 1 p.m. Around like 4 p.m. when we were about to be done with my hair, I noticed the contractions were becoming severe. Like the intensity was building up. And at some point she was touching my hair. I was like, stop, please wait, don't touch me. And then I'm like, okay. And then it passes and then we continue. Eventually we finished making the hair, and then I went upstairs to, just lie down, and the contractions kept coming, but they were still far apart. So I started using this app. I'll put the name of the app. There's this app you use to time your contractions. I started using it to see if there was a trend, and then I could see I was having contractions that were still like 15 minutes apart. I was like, I'm not in any established labor. This is probably early labor. And something about early labor is that they tell you it can take a couple hours, it can take a couple days. Some people can be in early labor for a week. So I'm like, okay, I'm probably in early labor, which is not too crazy because I'm 36 weeks and some days at that point. And then around 8 p.m. the contractions became, what's that thing they say, 311, 3 contractions lasting 1 minute every 10 minutes, I think, something like that. I'll put it on screen. I can't believe I've forgotten these things that I learned. So it had a pattern, it had a rhythm. From 8 to 9, the amount of contractions I had and the intensity was a lot. I literally then called my mom around like 8:30 on video call, and as I'm talking to her, the contractions will come and I'll stop and I'll hold my, like I was at the toilet, I'll hold the sink and I'll ride the wave. Another thing that really helped me then was TENS machine. In a previous vlog I had mentioned that I had TENS machine. TENS machine is used for early labor. So as a time when I went upstairs, which was around like 4:30, I already put the TENS machine. So when the contractions come, I'll press the machine, which it will give give you like electrical shocks in your back so that your mind is not just focusing on the pain here, it's not focusing on two pains, and that way it helps you manage the pain. So I had been using TENS machine up until that time when I called my mom. So when I called her and I feel the contractions, I'll press the machine and I'll, you know, ride the surge. It will, like, the contractions, what it feels like, I don't know, how can I explain contractions? It's like a surge. You feel like period cramps, but it's more intense and it's around your waist, roundabout kind of, and then it goes up, you feel it, and then to release you. Oh my god, it was actually interesting though. I'll feel the surge and then it will come back down. When it started getting more intense, my mom noticed that when the surge go up, I wasn't talking as much. Previously, when it's happening, I can still be talking. As the intensity is building up, I couldn't talk when I'm experiencing the up and the down. I have to keep quiet, it goes, and then I continue talking to my mom. So looking at my mom, was like, you know what, that we should go to the hospital. And then I disagreed. I told my mom, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm 36 weeks. This is early labor. It could last hours. My mom insisted. My father also spoke on the call that we should just go to the hospital. Let them just check me. Let them check my cervix, that I'm not dilated, just to be sure everything is okay since my first baby. And so after back and forth, I decided, all right, let's go. So around like past 9, we decided to go to the hospital. My husband went to grab the bags, so we already packed our baby bags and everything. And I'm like, why are you packing the bag? Like, why are you carrying bags? Why are you carrying bags? We are coming back, Nee. We are coming back. I'm not in labor. That's what I kept saying. Because to me, I was like, there's no way I'm in labor at 36 weeks. Another thing as well with the contractions was when I also came upstairs, I then lost my mucus plug. So when I saw that, I knew that, yes, I was in labor, but I was still like, it's early labor. So I lost my mucus plug. Why I was not so worried that sometimes when you lose your mucus plug, it's not a sign that you're going into labor immediately. You could lose your mucus plug. Some people lose it and get it back again. Losing it did not really signal to me that, oh, I'm in labor, but I just knew that, oh, it could be a sign of labor, it could not be as well. It's a hit or a miss, if that makes sense. We got to the hospital and then they decided to, you know, they took some urine, took some blood, and then they decided to monitor me. So they strapped me on the one that monitors the contraction and also baby's heart rate. Baby was doing fine, her heart rate was good, she was, you know, moving, she was active. And then the contractions, where they could see it was there was a clear pattern. I was in active labor. I was not in early labor, I was in active. I had entered active labor from 1 a.m. to 9 p.m. I was already in active labor. Around past 11 or so, the doctor came to me and she's like, okay, she can see the pattern. I'm in established labor. That can she check my cervix? She needs to check how dilated I am so they know how much runway we have. I was like, okay, cool. And then she puts her hand. Typically when someone puts their hand, you will feel it, right? But I didn't feel anything, and I could see the doctor's face. She was like, and she came out, she moved and she was like, you're 6 centimeters dilated. I was like, what? Because if you don't know anything about pregnancy, when you're 10 centimeters, you're ready to push that baby out. When she said it, my heart skipped. I was like, Jesus Christ, am I going to born this child today? And she's like, yeah, you're 6 centimeters dilated. She asked me, do I know the position of the baby? I was like, I did not know. So up until that point, we did not know baby's position. We had done a private scan at 32 weeks. At 32 weeks, baby was breech. But then obviously anybody will tell you that at 32 weeks, there's still a lot of time for baby to turn around before 40 weeks. So weren't worried. So I told them we had done a private scan at 32 weeks. So the thing was, the next day, so I was in the hospital today, right? The next day was when I was supposed to have the midwife appointment to confirm baby's position for 36 weeks. So as of 32 weeks up until that time, I did not know if she had turned or if she was still head down or whatever, or head up or leg up, whatever. So the doctor was like, okay, they need to get a scan. And then they brought in the machine, and then they did the scan, and then they saw that baby was breech. She was head up instead of head down. And that was when everything changed. That was when my life changed. Because when the doctor said I was 6 centimeters dilated, obviously I panicked a bit, but I was like, okay, I'm ready. If my body is dilating this fast, I'm ready to push. Like I can actually push if this girl decides she wants to come this early. So the doctor was like, oh, that I'm 6 centimeters dilated, baby is breech, that with how fast I'm dilating, if I'm not sectioned within the next 30 minutes, baby's leg is going to drop. And that if her leg drops, it's going to become a complex procedure, whether vaginally or even if they have to cut me, it's going to be a bit more complex. That so I need to be sectioned within 30 minutes. You guys, immediately she said that, my head started spinning. I'm like, I don't understand. I just came here to be checked. How am I giving birth now? She's like, I'm sorry, but you need to be sectioned or else it's going to be a bit complex. You're dilating really quick. Your baby's breech. We have to get you into theater. As she's saying that, she called the nurse. They told the nurse to bring consent form. My husband is sitting down there with me, holding my hand. I'm like, what's going on? How are we having surgery? They brought this consent form for my husband to be signing. As the doctor is talking, the nurse is talking to my husband, reading to him the things on the consent form, trying to explain some risk and everything. And I'm just like, Jesus. I was like, I need to call my family. I called them on the phone and telling them what's happening. They're talking to Jason on one hand. As the nurse is talking to Jason, the anesthesiologist comes in with another paper, and the anesthesiologist, as I'm talking to my parents, so is talking to me that, hey, these are the risks with anesthesia. Have I ever been under anesthesia? Have I eaten? When last did I eat? All the questions that the anesthesiologist was asking me. At the same time, another nurse came in to put in a cannula. So the other nurse like, oh, I need to put in a cannula. Anesthesiologist is talking. Someone is talking to my husband. My parents are on the phone. The doctor is saying something to another nurse, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. If you saw the chaos, it was chaotic. Jason looked at me and noticed that I was nervous. I started shaking because I was so scared. Like, what's going on? Like, it was so fast. And then Jason was like, excuse me. I was like, excuse me, please. Can we have a minute? Can we have a minute? He told everyone to stop because it was a lot. Jason was like, can everybody stop? So they stepped out for a bit, and Jason held me and like steadied me because I was really shaking. I was panicking. This was not what I had planned. I was supposed to, everybody will tell you can have a birth plan, but then with childbirth, keep an open mind. Anything can happen. Now, I knew anything could happen, but I did not expect that as I was walking into that hospital that day, I was going to be told that I'm going to have my baby that day. Like, it was so rushed. Also because we didn't know baby's position, right? It was just a lot of information at the same time. So after Jason steadied me, he was like, let's pray. And then we prayed, and then I kind of took in a deep breath, but I was still shaking because I was so nervous. I could not believe I was about to have a major abdominal surgery. So they all came back in, they put the cannula, Jason signed the consent form, I signed the anesthesiologist form, and the next thing they brought in a change of clothes for me. I changed, and then they brought the wheelchair. I sat on the wheelchair, and they were pushing me into theater. They gave Jason clothes, Jason wore clothes. Between the time the doctor said it and when I was on the theater bed, it was not up to 30 minutes. It wasn't even up to 20 minutes from when she said it to when I was in theater, because she said I was dilating really fast and they need to do something real quick before I progress, right? So we got into the theater room. I can remember just walking in there and sitting on the chair and the bright lights, the cold room, everything. I was like, what is going on? The biggest shock for me was I walked into the hospital. I was like, nothing is happening. It's early labor. Like, you are panicking. I was like, my parents are panicking. Let me just do this so everyone can rest. I was not thinking I was in active labor. Like, I was like, I'll be fine. It's nothing. And for me to walk in there and then being told I'm giving birth to my baby that day. So it was now time for them to put the spinal block. So spinal block is the thing they give you from your waist down, so you're numb, and then they can do the cesarean section. So now the thing is, you need to stay still. There's a way you need to bend like this so your back acts and they can shook the thing in. Obviously, I'm already shaking. I was literally shaking, not shaking because of fear. I was anxious, fear, adrenaline, a lot of things was going on. So I was really shaking. I wasn't steady. If you see me, I was just shaking. So I needed to stay still. So when the anesthesiologist started, I started shaking. Obviously, he struggled. He did it. It didn't take. He now told me I have to stay still. And then he did it again. The second time, he still did not take. And let me tell you, each time they did it, I was in pain. Now, they give you a local anesthesia. Like, they took an injection there to numb it a bit. But still, I felt pain. They did it 2 times. It didn't take. Then was the 3rd time he finally took. Then when he took, you just feel a numbness running down your legs, your spine and everything. And then they laid me down, and then they put the screen, and then they started the surgery. It felt like an out-of-body experience because of how rushed it was. Now, it's different from when you planned a cesarean section, like you're having cesarean, you picked your date, you carry your bag, you walk in. This was an emergency cesarean. I did not expect anything to happen like this. So they started surgery. I kept shaking the whole time. I started feeling cold. I told them I'm cold. They brought 2 blankets and they put on me on this side that was, not in the surgery part. They put it on me. I kept shaking. Jason started asking them that, is this normal? That I'm shaking a lot. And they're like, yes, it's normal. It's adrenaline, all of that it should wear out sometime after surgery. And that's how I was shaking throughout the surgery. Jason was on my side. And the next thing, they bring out baby. Now, they brought out my baby, and immediately they brought her out. They just showed us a bit. They put the curtain down, they showed me. And the next night, so they cut the cord. They took my baby to the side. They didn't bring her to me. They took her to the side, and I could see, because I can only turn my head, I could see like 3 or 4 nurses and a doctor or something there trying to do something to my baby. And then they told us that baby had swallowed a lot of abdominal fluid. She came out with a cord wrapped around her. So because the cord was wrapped around her, she had opened her mouth and she was drinking the amniotic fluid. So her stomach was distended and she had fluid in her body. So they were were there trying to get all the fluid out of my baby, while me, I was just there, and I felt so helpless. We couldn't do anything. I didn't get to have that, you know, sometimes when they do CS and they'll give you the baby, at least you hold the baby. I didn't get to have that immediately. Instead, the first thing I saw was my baby fighting for her life in the corner. And then after a while, they're able to stabilize her. They then said, oh, she's not taking in oxygen, that her oxygen is 30%, so she's not breathing in properly, she's not taking in oxygen properly. So they brought her to me. In like 1 minute, just put her on my face. I just held her. It wasn't even up to 1 minute, just took her, because they had to take her to the pediatric ward, the neonatal intensive care unit, to try and get her on oxygen because she wasn't breathing properly. You guys, they see. So that's how they took my baby away. Me and Jason stayed, and obviously he has to sit with me for them to stitch me back. That was it. Baby was out, they stitched me, surgery was over, and I was now brought to recovery. Obviously with recovery, you still have a catheter, so they put a catheter for you so that you can urinate in that because you can't move. They expect not to see blood in the catheter, because if they see blood in the catheter, obviously it means something else. So I was a bit anxious as well that catheter should be clear, and then I needed to start feeling my legs again. All of that started happening. I started getting sensation, and then Jason had to go to the NICU because I can't move. Jason had to go to the NICU to go and see the baby. They said that she was struggling with oxygen, so my baby had oxygen tube put into her nose. She had a lot of wires on her legs, her everywhere. There was wire on my baby. Jason took a picture and brought it for me. I couldn't hold my baby after giving birth, which was another thing that I did not know that would happen, because obviously I didn't know what was going to happen. Even though I had planned to give birth vaginally, I had already learnt about cesarean. You know, you have to read about both in case anyone happens, because you can never determine. So I knew one of the things is to start moving as soon as possible. So I was brought out of theatre around 1 a.m. By 9 a.m. the next morning, I stood up. I started walking, because I'm like, see, I need to move. I need to start working. I need to start working. Another thing to state here is that my mom was supposed to be in the UK by the time I gave birth, but we had some issues with her visa, which meant that her visa was denied. And so I was going through this, realizing that there's no help available. It's just gonna be me and my husband, and I have cesarean, and I have a baby who is poorly. So I mean, there was nothing that, just thinking about that, I knew I needed to stand up. I needed to start moving, because I needed to be strong and I have to take care of that baby. So I stood up that morning. Even though I was in intense pain, I started walking, you know, just trying to get movement. Now the thing was, baby was then in the NICU. She stayed here for 5 days. In those 5 days, they were giving her antibiotics, broad spectrum. They said she also had an infection, which they were treating. My baby was on oxygen. Then later, she needed to eat, so they put a tube in her nose going straight to her stomach. Nothing prepares you to see your baby like that. So the first day I saw her, I think it was the second day, her second day of life. When I went to the NICU and I saw my baby, I cried so much, and I told Jason that I won't be going to the NICU. He has to be the one doing it, because it hurts me to see her like that. I couldn't even hold her because she was strapped with so much wires. There was the one for breathing, there's the one again in her nose to her stomach, there's the ones on her chest, there's one on her leg. But as God will have it, she started taking on more oxygen, and I think by day 3 they removed the oxygen. She was taking 100% oxygen, but the tube stayed there. She was being fed through a tube and not through her mouth. So after that, discussed with the doctor, because we're tired of staying in the hospital. We had stayed here for 5 days, and we're supposed to stay for 10 days, and I was like, God, I can't take it. I need to go home. I need to be in my space. The doctor then decided that, okay, the antibiotics they'll be giving her once a day, that we can go home and bring her every day to take the antibiotic. It's an IV. They put it here. So she had my small baby had a cannula, and then they were putting the IV into her vein. So we'll go there. The IV takes about an hour. Because there's a big stuff here, they had to secure it with something. We couldn't wear her clothes properly. One of her hands would be out, and she was so tiny, and she was... When we're discharged, she then went in every day and was taking the IV every day for 5 days. And in those 5 days, I had to go to the hospital with Jason still. I was still recovering from a cesarean, but I had no choice but to stand up each day and enter the car. And each time we were on the road, I would cry, because I'm in so much pain. Every bump, every movement hurts. But then I have to be there. I have to carry my baby. Nobody was there to help. My husband pulled his weight so much. God bless him. He really pulled his weight, but still, there's nothing that prepares you for not having support after giving birth, healing from major abdominal surgery, having a tiny baby that is sick that you also have to care for. The first few weeks after giving birth, my mental health took a big dip. It took a big dip because I couldn't even talk to anybody. Typically, when you have a baby, right, the next day you're telling, like, once you have a baby, you're telling everybody, people are calling you, congratulations, congratulations. So like, I didn't get to have that, because when my baby came out, there was nothing. What are you congratulating me for? I didn't even tell anybody. My family knew. And I think 2 weeks after that, I still had not told anyone, that apart from my family, that I had given birth, because My baby was not okay. For the 10 days she was still taking this medicine and fighting for her life, I didn't feel okay. I didn't feel like, oh, I had a baby on it or anything. I was just in survival mode. I was just trying to survive. My baby too should survive. So another thing is, when babies are born, they lose weight after a couple of days. So she lost weight and she needed to gain the weight back. So there's a bit of pressure and anxiety with that. Will she gain weight? Will she gain weight? But as God have it, she gained really well within those 10 days as well, because I was moving a lot and I was still healing, but I needed to move. I think on day 7 I had to be readmitted into the hospital because I was in so much pain. I had to be readmitted for one night, and then that night they gave me some really strong painkillers. So me, Jason, and the problem is anything I'm doing, the baby has to be there because only 2 of us. So me, Jason, and baby had to go to the hospital that night, and we slept overnight. I had to be readmitted to the hospital because of pain, and that's because I'm moving a lot. But what would I do? It's just me and my husband. Another thing I was saying, I was like, why didn't this girl just wait until she was 37 weeks? Because 37 weeks is considered full term in the UK, but she was 36 weeks and some days. Another thing, so why did I title this Miraculous? It is Miraculous because of a couple of things which I want to highlight. So even though it wasn't what I expected, even though I mourned the birth I could have had, I really mourned it, like, oh, I didn't get to hold my baby, I didn't get to experience that, you know, surge of pushing and having your baby and all of that, like the things I had in my mind. I didn't get to have my mom here to support me. So a lot of the things I had, I mourned that, I cried, I grieved. I had a lot of times when I questioned God. I'm like, God, why me, you know, why that? But in the midst of this, what I realized is that it's still a miracle, and I need to acknowledge that. So why I said this birth was a miracle is, one, imagine if I had not gone to the hospital at the time I went to the hospital. If my parents had not insisted I go, I would have stayed home, and I would have dilated so much that by the time I get to the hospital, it would have become a complicated delivery. That's one. 2, my baby had the cord wrapped around her neck and she was taking amniotic fluid. If she had stayed in much longer, because I wanted her to stay till 40 weeks. If she had stayed till 40 weeks, God forbid, who knows what could have happened? Maybe she could have died because she had been drinking amniotic fluid. She came out with a distended stomach because of how much fluid she had taken. That's 2. The third thing is, my baby was not taking oxygen properly. Now, without breathing, if you can't breathe properly, there's literally nothing they can do. The fact that she went from 30% to 40% to 50% and she was taking 100% oxygen, the fact that her oxygen level stabilized, that's also another miracle. Infection they said she had, when they did the cultures, like when they did the test, they could not find the exact infection that they were looking for, which was also another miracle, and I just have to acknowledge that. Another big miracle, the fact that I have my baby in my hand. This guy is in this house crying and crying. That's also another miracle. The fact that I'm alive. I mean, there are people that go into surgery, right? And then your BP drops, this one drops, that one drops, you lose blood. I also did not lose a lot of blood. The doctor said I lost like 600 ml, which is normal and okay, so I didn't bleed out on the surgical bed. So like, there are a lot of things to thank God for. Another thing I want to say here is that there was a bit of negligence with my care in the hospital. So even that is a miracle. When I went to the hospital, they were short-staffed, so there was a lot of things that fell through the cracks. They're supposed to take my vitals every day, 3 times a day. On this particular day, no nurse came to me to take my vitals. There was also a bit of racial whatever, but I'm just gonna leave that on the side. And another thing is, after CS, there's this injection they give you to take it every day. I was to take it for 10 days. Now they give you that injection based on your weight. A nurse had weighed me and given me a dose from that injection, but on the day I was being discharged, the nurse that saw the dose on my file was like, something is wrong here. She's like, was I weighed? I'm like, yes, I was weighed. She was like, she can't see where they wrote the weight, that she needs to weigh me again. And when she weighed me, she was like, oh my God, I'm on the wrong dose. I was taking the wrong dose of that. It's a blood thinner. It's a blood thinner. It thins out your blood. I was taking to prevent blood clot. I was taking the wrong dose of that for 2 days before someone spotted it. So like, there's so many things that could have gone wrong. Even though things did not go as I wanted, there are things that could have been even worse than it was, which is why I'm still saying that it is a miracle. The fact that I'm alive, the fact my baby is here, all of these things are why I said it's a miracle. It was traumatic. I mean, I needed mental health support. I was, placed on mental health support. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, because I think this is almost close to 9 weeks after birth. That's why I'm able to talk about this without breaking down. I think in the first 3 I think from the first week to the third week, I can't even sit properly and talk about this thing, because each time I replayed it, I had very strong emotions. I would cry, I would shake, because it was just too much for me to deal with, right? So my mental health took a major dip. It took a major dip. So the fact that I'm even, you know, able to come out of it, here I am talking about it, that as well is a miracle on its own. That's everything. I really tried my best not to cry in this video, but still the tears came out. If you're pregnant, okay, or you're planning to be pregnant, one thing I can say is you can still have the birth that you want, okay? You can still trust God to have an amazing birth. I know of people, my friends, some of them had their baby before the ambulance could even come. They've had the baby in the house. I have people that didn't feel a lot of pain, you know, they just had their babies. Like, there are different experiences, and you can still have the birth that you want. You can still be hopeful. Everybody has their experiences, right? And you should and you can still be hopeful that you're gonna have a beautiful birth, and you will have a beautiful birth. The way you have your baby also influences how you're able to show up. So because of how I was mentally drained, emotionally, physically, normally breastfeeding comes with its challenges, but the fact that even mentally I wasn't okay, it made it very, very hard for me to breastfeed my baby. I don't know if it's because I was protecting myself, like, I don't know, will she stay, will she not stay? I think I dissociated from my baby for a while because of the fear that I felt when I saw her, the way she was the first few days of her birth. If you had seen her, it was a lot. So I don't know, maybe not, maybe not. I might talk about like dealing with anxiety and postnatal issues and all of that, but anyway, so this is my birth story. I just want to give all the thanks to God, who is able to make this happen and, you know, make me victorious in the end. So thank you guys for watching. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.